Alright, so, I've been seeing, all the videos, my favorite records of 2024, and I'm thinking, like, I haven't really listened to that many albums that came out this year, but, like, I want to be in on it too, I don't want to miss out on the fun. So, I came up with the genius idea to do my favorite records of 2024, but they're not from 2024. They're just ones that I have discovered this year. Ones that have impacted me most this year, basically, This was a very punk year, definitely. So, expect a lot of that here, but I'm glad because, I found some awesome bands. And I tried to, get a, number that made sense, 10 or 15, but I ended up with 13 because it was hard to rank these. So it's 13. Little unlucky, I know, but whatever. But yeah, so starting off with number 13, we have Ramones' Rocket to Russia. Son, get out of the way, please, thank you. So, as some of you might already know, for the longest time, I, hated, well, hate is a strong word, I don't really know, but, I disliked the Ramones. Something about Joey Ramone's voice I just didn't like. But then finally, for some reason, it clicked, and I actually enjoy them now, and this was the first album I listened to. It's definitely got some classics, like Teenage Lobotomy and Sheena as a Punk Rocker. I don't know why, but I prefer the, production and sound of this album compared to their first. The vocals are a lot more nasally sounding on the first one compared to here, and even though I still do like it now, Joey Ramone just sounds better here in my opinion. But yeah, again, it's a classic, obviously. Songs are catchy, simple, and fun. Though I do love the almost ballady type song, Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. It's super haunting and just wistful in a way. It's really, really cool. But yeah, I was happy to finally not feel like a punk poser anymore and actually enjoy the Ramones now, so. Alright, so for 12, we have got, and I don't have this album, so you're just gonna have to imagine I'm holding it, but Killing Joke's self-titled. So, just pretend it's right here. I have it right here, right? Yeah. This is a very unique album. It's hard to describe, honestly. But I just love the riffs here. They're very kind of doomy and gloomy in a way. Dissonant, yet have some resolving melody. The songs all have this very urgent, apocalyptic, doomsday vibe. And the whole album just sounds cool. There's lots of neat sounds going on. The bass is also really nicely audible and makes it all just sound a bit fuller. Again, I'm having a hard time putting it all into words, but I just love the bleak feel of it. And it's a neat sounding record. Alright, number 11, we've got our first metal album, and that is Possessed, Seven Churches. We are just gonna ignore the Possessed drama going on right now and separate the art from the artist because this is a brilliant album. Has it been tainted for me a little bit? Maybe, but what can you do? I don't know why it took me so long to get into this album, as I've heard about it for a while. It's just super sinister all the way through, and I love that. And the vocals, I love the vocals too. They just sound like some kind of demon. It's cool. And of course, the solos too are also really awesome, chaotic, sinister, evil, all the adjectives. I also really, really love the song Twisted Minds. It's always stuck in my head. It's got a really nice groove to it. The song Pentagram is really awesome too. Some people consider this the first death metal album, right? So it's pretty legendary for that. And it's definitely legendary for me, even with some of the recent events. Can't deny it. It's still gonna go on here, so yeah. Now, 10 is Minor Threats, First to 7 Inches. This is one of my favorite albums to clean to, just saying. It's great for that. It's short and sweet, like most punk records, though the whole straight edge message that Minor Threat kind of stood for is interesting to me because most bands in the punk scene then kind of push the opposite message. And I've also always liked the guitar tone here. It's nothing special at all, but I just like how it sounds. I don't know. The songs here have that crazy, chaotic feel, but at the same time are also incredibly catchy, which I feel like is hard to get both of those things together in a song, but it's definitely achieved here, so good album. I like it. All right, now, number 9 is Napalm Death, Scum. When I first listened to this album, it honestly, scared me a little bit, yet I just wanted more. I'd only really ever heard Napalm Death from that clip of, Jim Carrey talking about them, if you've ever seen that. And I gotta say, his impression is pretty spot on. I like the almost hardcore punk feel this album has in a way. The riffs are very chaotic, but do occasionally slow down and break up the monotony of blasting speed. There's a good amount of very short songs, which I don't really listen to as much. But the tracks that are actually long enough to be a cohesive song are great. I still can't understand most of the lyrics, but honestly, I don't even need to enjoy this album. Next, at number 8, is SOD, Speak English or Die. Man, I wish I had the record I could hold here. I just want it so bad. Now, I had tried to listen to this album a long time ago. I don't know how or why I found it, but at the time, I didn't like it much. I deleted it off my playlist, went on with life, and then finally, we met again. And since I was already into the similar kind of crossover bands, DRI, Suicidal Tendencies, all that stuff, I gave it another chance, and yeah, it worked. This album is definitely something. From the pounding speed to the song titles You Can't Let Your Parents See, to the literal 4-second songs. It's just a cacophony of an album in the best way possible. Again, like Scum, there's those short tracks that make for a good amount of mush in between the songs. That's a disgusting term. Why did I just say that? Just a lot of kind of filler that you don't really listen to unless you're listening to the full thing. This album is just awesome and crazy in the best way. Moving on, number 7, we have Group Sex by the Circle Jerks. Killer debut from an awesome band. This album is just wild in the streets. I love it. The riffs are simple and catchy, yet still evoke pure chaos along with the rest of the instruments and vocals. The whole album doesn't take itself too seriously, with the witty and humorous lyrics at times, yet it still manages to also inject that punk political and social commentary as well. Each song is just a lightning-fast punch, and before you know it, you're already on to the next, which they all transition into each other very, very well, and I really like that. And also just wanted to mention, listening to the song Beverly Hills off of here while driving through Beverly Hills on vacation was just the most perfect experience. Honestly, I've been teetering between this record and Wild in the Streets being my favorite, but this was my first introduction to the Circle Jerks, so that's why it's here. Alright, now, number 6, we've got The Damned Machine Gun Etiquette. This album is pretty much your classic punk, like their first album, but this one I think has a much cooler sound. The songs are very catchy and melody-driven, and the whole album has a lot of different sounds going on that really add to the atmosphere. And the leads and solos are super awesome in literally every song. They add so much texture, and also along with the keyboards that come in on some of the tracks. And I just have to mention my favorite song off of here because it is just so beautifully haunting, Plan 9, Channel 7. It's so cool, and it also uses my most favorite guitar chord. Which apparently is called this. I did not know that, I had to Google it. But anyways, yeah, this album just has this really cool vibe to me, and I like it a lot. Alright, more metal, finally, which number 5 is Autopsy, Severed Survival. Again, another one I really wish I had in my hands because I need it. As I mentioned earlier, this year I went pretty deep into punk, and actually for a few months I didn't even listen to any kind of metal at all. But I did discover Severed Survival, and it just blew me away. I believe it was one of the first metal albums I listened to after my little break. One of my most favorite things about this album is the production. It just sounds amazing. Everything is so clear and audible, yet still very aggressive and heavy. The bass is super audible and almost in your face, but it doesn't overtake the guitar. And the vocals sit perfectly in the mix. Again, they don't overpower anything, and it just all blends together perfectly, yet isn't overpolished. The songs also have great dynamic. They're slow, almost doomy riffs, and then melodic lines with harmonies underneath, and of course, your typical death metal riffing. I also like the variation in the songs. They aren't just like pounding the entire time. They ebb and flow, and I feel that songs like that are more impactful. Nothing's wrong with just blasting the entire way through, but that can get boring and repetitive to me if that's what you get for the entire album. So having that dynamic here makes everything much cooler and sets the songs apart from each other. Alright, number 4, we have The Wipers' Is This Real? So I actually discovered The Wipers from Hole, which if you didn't know is already one of my favorite bands of all time. They did a cover of the song Over the Edge, which for a while I did not know that it was a cover. I don't even remember how I found out that it was, but it just fit really well as a whole song, I guess. If you haven't checked the cover out, definitely do, because it's very good. But once I found that out, I obviously went out and listened to the original and liked it even more. So naturally, I went to find more songs and stumbled upon this album. It is very unique. I don't even know what genre it would be considered. It's got a lot of fun, catchy melodies and hooks, but it doesn't stray away from darkness and mystique with the eerie sounding songs like D7 and Potential Suicide. It's clean sounding, yet still has this roughness around the edges. It's definitely a very cool album, and I'm glad that I discovered them through that cover. Now, number 3, this is an album I actually literally just listened to very recently, so it's barely made the cut, but it is Bauhaus, In the Flat Field. Now, I'm not super into all of the goth stuff. Granted, I haven't really listened to a ton, but some of it is just too slow and quiet to me, and I get a bit bored. The only song I actually heard from Bauhaus was Bela Lugosi's Dead, which isn't a bad song. However, this album brings that punkiness along with the darkness, kind of like death rock vibes, I guess. It has its quieter moments, but enough action with songs like Dark Entries, In the Flat Field, obviously, and I've really taken a liking to the song Nerves. It is extremely cool, and I'm a bit obsessed with it. But yeah, I really did enjoy this album a lot, and since it's pretty new to me, I will probably continue to enjoy it for a good while. And I think if you're like me, and you like the dark and evil kind of lyrical aspects of goth music, but also still want that bite to the songs, then this would be worth listening to. Alright, number 2. If you've been around on my channel for a bit, then this is probably no surprise. I'm a Danzig worshiper, and I have no shame. There's just no way I couldn't include this, and it is Danzig 1. Now, the regulars here would know that my favorite Danzig album is actually Danzig 2. However, I think Danzig 1 has had the biggest impact on me overall, and it was my favorite for a while, to be fair. Just that dark, evil, sleazy vibe and such catchy songs. It's very unique with a sound that I don't think anyone else has replicated. Will you stop? It's very unique with a sound that I don't think anyone else has replicated. I've already made an entire video on it, and you guys are probably tired of hearing me gush over it over and over. So, if you really want my in-depth thoughts, then you can check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, it's so good. Alright, last but not least, we've got my number 1. And yep, it's also a part of the Glenn Danzig trilogy. Samhain, November Coming Fire. Now, I actually originally had put Danzig 1 in the first spot, but then I thought about it, and I think this album has definitely impacted me even more than that one. I just can't get enough of that Samhain sound. Again, there's literally nothing I've ever found that evokes the same feeling. This album is just phenomenal from start to finish. Again, did a whole video on it already, but the vibe here is unmatched. Each song flows nicely together, yet has personality. It has anthemic choruses, sinister riffs, and lyrics, and just great emotion. Every single song is just incredibly catchy. I will forever be chasing the Samhain and Danzig sound. However, I don't think anyone else but Danzig himself will ever be able to fully encapsulate it. Even though technically I discovered both Danzig 1 and this album in late 2023, I think it had its biggest influence on me in 2024, so therefore it is still making my list whether you like it or not. But yeah, November Coming Fire, it's incredible. And there you have it. That is my list. So let's go into a little honorable mentions because why not? I'm not gonna talk about these too much because, you know, the video's already gone on for quite long, but first one is Cancer to the Gory End. Super cool album. Another one is Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols. Another album that I also didn't like at first and then went back and loved it for some reason, I don't know. Misfits, Famous Monsters. You know, even though Danzig Misfits is awesome, I still like this album a lot as well. The Descendants, Milo Goes to College, really neat album. And lastly is The Dead Boys, We Have Come for Your Children. Just, again, cool, classic punk album. Yeah, cool, okay. That's it, goodbye. Yeah. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever. Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, that's cool too. I am recording this before actual Christmas, so hopefully I can get some of the albums on here for Christmas. You will see if I do, definitely. Yeah, cool. Happy holidays. I think that's a term that can apply to everybody. There we go.